welcome back and congratulations. You're here with District Baseball. Nick and Trey back at it again, talking all things Nats as well as Major League Baseball as we wind down the 2023 season, including Jackson Rutledge's bounce-back performances over the past week. We have plenty of playoff talk going on as well as some milestone achievements for some players around the league. But Trey, what's going on?
Nick, we're just getting ready for some epic showdowns here in the last week of the season, especially in that AL West and that AL wildcard race right now. And I'm just super excited to get into that. But before we do, we have a little bit of Nats news. It's not much, but we do have some. And one of those things has been the performance of Jackson Rutledge after a rough first start. That was the last time we talked about him, was after that rough first start where he did not look quite MLB ready. Well, in the two starts since then, we're talking a 2.38 ERA in 11 innings pitched. Got his first career win against the Atlanta Braves on Sunday, which
of all teams,
I mean, you're talking about a bad weather game as well, which can be tough for pitchers. It was probably bad enough at some points to delay if they didn't have the second game right after it. So really impressive stuff. He pitched with confidence, pounded the strike zone in his last two outings versus Chicago, the White Sox, and Atlanta. And that was something that we wanted to see after that first start where he was working from behind way too much. So good stuff from him. I'm actually really excited to see him having some success.
Yeah, if you had told me, when we first found out that Jackson Rutledge would be called up, that he would be slotted to face the Pirates, the White Sox, and the Braves, and he would win one of those starts, I mean, no one's picking the Braves. But that's the one he won.
Yep.
Granted, he pitched well enough against the White Sox to get the win. It's just, the Nats offense doing Nats offensive things that are offensive to me and fans everywhere. See what I did there?
I
that
do.
Was nice.
Excellent.
But like as you pointed out, 11 and a third, 3 earned runs, keeping the walks down, which has really been his Achilles heel, especially in AAA, but throughout his time in the minors. Very similar to Jake Irvin in some regards as far as like their profile goes. I just can't figure out where I stand on Jackson Rutledge because I was really high for a while, and I think a lot of that admittedly had to do with the fact that I just wanted one prospect to pan out.
Yeah,
like it had been so long.
Yeah.
So I put all my eggs in the Jackson Rutledge basket because prior to all of these fire sales and all of these trades, that was the the only place to go, really. Like, you're not going to put your eggs into the 16-year-old Dominican signing that you're not going to see for at least 7 years, if not ever, right? So, you had to put it in somewhere, but then, he dealt with injuries and struggle, and it's just like, man, I don't know if we're ever going to see Jackson Rutledge. And then, of course, all the shiny new toys come in via trade and the draft and whatnot. And he kind of got overlooked in some regard, but I think that might have honestly been a good thing for him because we've seen what happens when the Nats kind of like hyper focus on a certain player. They like force him up, and we can talk about the Lucas Giolito handling, but even Ronaldo Lopez, like, they were forcing them to the majors, and
that's a good
maybe they were maybe they're showcasing them for trades, and hindsight's 2020, but like the way you just handled them as far as player development, like, they were really rushed to the majors because they were the guys. But now Jackson Rutledge doesn't have to be the guy, and he can just go out there and pitch, and obviously he's given an opportunity to with some injuries late in the year, and as we wind down, we just need fresh arms to finish out the year for us, and he's doing well, and it really is a good thing. Obviously it's a good thing for the Nats, but they have to figure out their starting rotation yet again going into 2024, and I think Rutledge has shown enough to be like, okay, we can give him a start out of camp, and let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, and I would actually like to see the 6-man rotation earlier in the season next year, personally.
Wouldn't mind it at all.
I feel, overall, the guys have looked better since instituting that as a whole. I mean, they're still not great, but we've seen the benefit to having rest or just skipping starts sometimes. That would be fine too. We saw how great Josiah was when they finally got around to doing that. When Jake Irvin has struggled this year, they've skipped starts for him, and he's come back strong. So yeah, honestly, not the worst thing in terms of our starting pitching depth at the back end of the rotation. Still got to figure out how to get an ace or two It's either through development or free agency, because the front end is looking rough, but the back end, not too bad. And we also are going to be using, I would hope, some of that free agent money on the bullpen depth as well. And hopefully not just bringing back old friends, including Mr. Sean Doolittle, who is not available anymore because he has finally retired. We kind of thought it was happening with the injuries, because he's been trying to fight back from a knee thing as well. And then he actually revealed he re-aggravated that knee, and that's kind of why he decided to call it a career. But and a freaking retirement that actually happened, first of all, and didn't get canceled like the week of. So that's cool.
Yeah, shocker how that all came together nice and smoothly.
Yeah, I know. Interesting.
Same day, press conference that night.
Yeah.
Throw out the first pitch that game.
What was the difference there, I wonder? Anyways,
yeah.
We love Doo. He was obviously the man for, a good 3. I think he was here for 20, but I don't remember the 20 season, honestly. Anyways, Nats fans certainly would agree that Doolittle's contributions are definitely even more valuable than his statistics with the Nats, especially that 2019 season, where his ERA probably wasn't the best. But ask any Nats fan who watched during the first half of that season. He carried the bullpen until we got Daniel Hudson that year. I mean, by himself, held it together with duct tape. I mean, it was just Sean Doolittle. And then obviously in the playoffs, he was excellent. So we love Doo, and we really hope that he finds even more happiness in his next step.
Yeah. Literally, I get so tired of bringing guys back. I just think you can only catch lightning in a bottle once, and if you're lucky, and it seems like the Nats always try to,
find the magic again.
Squeeze everything for what it's worth. But Doolittle was one where I'm like it sucks to see him struggle, but through all of those struggles, and there was a lot of them, at the tail end of his tenure with the Nats, it was just like, man, I really want him to figure it out. But as you pointed out, it seemed like the writing was on the wall. He had a couple of quick stops with Cincinnati and Seattle that didn't work out, and then he was actually back with us for a cup of coffee, and it looked great.
Yeah, he did look good until he got hurt. He had this he was actually kind of dominant for those 8 or so innings that he threw last year.
5 1/3.
5 1/3. Okay, awesome.
But yeah, to your point, I mean, the 2019 season doesn't. If you take one key cog out of that, and I would obviously argue Doolittle was a very key cog in the 2019 run. If you take one and just put in a league average player, that run does not happen. Sean Doolittle, great guy. Wish him nothing but the best. It was a great ride with Washington, which doesn't always happen for our midseason acquisitions, but I'm certainly glad his turned out well for everyone involved, and wish him nothing but the best.
Absolutely.
All right, we're back in talking baseball and talking milestones. For the first time in 17 years, we have a 40-40 player, courtesy of one Ronald Acuna Jr. Quite frankly, it's kind of an embarrassment that it took him this long. But I guess we got to give credit where credit is due. There's a reason why this is such a few and far between milestone, but it just had to happen against the Nats. It feels like any milestone, whether it's a 40-40 home run or the 40th home run to get to 40-40, or 762 or 63, whatever, for Barry Bonds, it just always comes against the Nats. But Patrick Corbin let Ronald Acuna get to 40-40, which who
could have seen that coming?
Yeah, exactly. Does this basically make him a lock for NL MVP?
I believe so, and it's not even going to be a 40-40. It's going to be a 40-70. And
obviously we're
talking 40-40.
Bit, but
yeah, 40-40 is the benchmark we've chosen because it hasn't been done, but he's doing even more than that. For the conversation of should he be the MVP, once again, I don't know. I don't know if it's him or Mookie, but
outstanding player versus value. And,
he's gonna win. He's gonna win because of those milestones, almost guaranteed. But and it's not like I don't want to act like I'm diminishing anything he's done this year. Elite season, absolutely elite season. I'm not gonna be upset that he wins it. I'm really not. But that's where we just wanted to talk when we're talking value and stuff like that, it's different. But 40-40 for Acuna, absolutely incredible. And with these stolen base rules, who's to say he won't do it again next year?
And I think we're going to see more. I wish I knew. I think Julio Rodriguez gets there at some point in his career. I'm not ready to say it next year, but the stolen bases are gonna obviously skyrocket and continue to skyrocket. And it's just it seems like 40 home runs is like happening at a lesser rate, and obviously, I'm sure steroids have a part to do with it.
It's actually going up for stolen bases and down for homers now. It's interesting how that's working.
Yeah, so it's weird to think like the tougher part of 40 is now home runs, which before it felt opposite, where like it was hard to get to double digit, stolen bases. Like 2020 was such an accomplishment, and now the number of 2020 players are going to rise exponentially because it's so much easier to get to 20 stolen bases with the pickoff limitations and the bigger bases and whatnot, which I think is a good thing. I'm not like complaining about it, and I'm not like the baseball purist that doesn't want anything to ever change just for the the sake of keeping the game the same. Like I think that's just silly. But I'm just saying I think we will see more 40-40 players, but I think Acuna also would have done it if the rules weren't in place either. Like he was always a good base runner and base stealer, and obviously always had the power.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a 37 homer season or something like that.
37-41.
Yeah, it was
something like that.
He almost did it already, so yeah, he probably would have done it regardless. So it's definitely not something that we want to diminish, like I said earlier. But it'll probably be 40-60 now or 40-70 because he's probably going to hit that.
There's going to be a new benchmark.
It's going to be changing, and like you said, 2020 is not even a big deal anymore. Lane Thomas is going to go 30-20 this year probably. I mean, he's like 28 homers. He's already gotten 20 stolen bases.
And I mean, we need C.J. Abrams to hit 2 more home runs, so he's 20-20.
And there you go.
He would be 20-40.
Yeah,
but obviously he would be on pace for 20-90.
Absolutely.
Over a full season.
So the benchmarks are going to be different, which is interesting. I think it's going to be fun to see how those change and how we view those seasons going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on and talk just playoffs. And I mean, when I say we're talking playoffs, we are covering as much as we can possibly cover in this show. We're going all around the league, and I think the logical place to start is the place where we alluded to at the top of the show, and that's the AL West, but kind of the AL wild card as a whole. The AL West obviously determines a lot because you have 3 teams in Texas, Houston, and Seattle that are vying for the division, and it seems like at least one of those teams will get, definitely one of those at least one of those teams, other teams will get one of the wild card spots, if not both of them. It seems like Toronto's kind of pulling away with the second wild card spot, which leaves, again, one of the AL West teams for the, obviously, division and the wild card. So my question to you is, who the hell misses? Like, I can make legit arguments for any 3 of these AL West teams to be in the playoffs and make a run, and one of them's going to get left out, and I don't know who is.
That's what I was going to say. A really good team is going to miss the playoffs, which is funny because we have expanded playoffs now. You thought that might not happen, but no, we're going to be sitting here with one of those AL West teams probably sitting on the outside saying, "How the heck are we not a part of this?" But this is my hot take. Here's the deal: Seattle Mariners are my squad. I'm sticking with them. Okay,
yeah, I agree.
They've got 7 home games to end the season. 3 versus Houston starting tonight. And
that's a big
one. In literally 10 minutes. Justin Verlander versus Luis Castillo. Ridiculous matchup. Going to be great stuff there. And then you got Texas coming to town into Seattle. Give me the Seattle Mariners going 6-1 this week and winning the division. Boom. Let's go.
But I feel like that's kind of what they're going to need to make this thing happen.
Yeah, well, they've left themselves in a position where they're down, but at least that they kind of control their own destiny. If they win, they're in.
Yeah. So for those that haven't looked, Texas is 2.5 games up on Houston, who currently sits in second and in the final wild card spot. Seattle is 3 games back of the division, so still the division is well within play for Seattle, but they're only half a game back of Houston for the final wildcard spot, but they are on the outside looking in. And so, I mean, this series right now is a playoff series for both Houston and Seattle. Like, it's must-watch TV, and obviously you just alluded to the pitching matchup tonight. Like, this is what we talked about last week. Like, there is playoff baseball going on right now. But because it's Monday night and there's Monday Night Football and all this other stuff, like, it's kind of getting lost in the shuffle. Don't let it. Like, this is playoff baseball right now. And Houston, Seattle, if this was like an ALCS matchup, I would not be surprised whatsoever, because I like a lot of the things both of these teams are doing. And again, I can make legitimate arguments for both these teams going on a run.
Absolutely. And essentially, if you see a sweep in this series by either team, the team that gets swept is basically done.
Sentence.
Yeah, they're done. I mean, that's how close we are to the end here. So, I'm gonna say it. Houston misses the playoffs this year. They're playing the worst baseball out of any of these teams right now. They lost 5 games this month to the Royals. Okay, we were talking about it before, how ridiculous that is. They also lost the series to the Oakland A's this month in September, coming down the stretch when they were in position to win that division pretty easily. All they had to do was take care of business, and they did not take care of business. They've left themselves where they shouldn't be. They should already probably be clinched into the playoffs, but they've lost some games. There's been some questionable management. Basically, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm probably sleeping on them because they have those experienced guys who've been there before, and we'll see how that comes through this week. But judging by how they've played coming down the stretch, I don't see it, and I think that the Mariners are going to win the series, and I think that the Astros end up out of the playoffs.
Questionable management from Dusty Baker? Never. People are not going to like that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I love Dusty, but like,
as a person, there's no one better. There's no one better.
I mean,
as a tactician,
there's a reason it took him longer than any other coach to win a World Series. That's just saying.
Yeah. Again, as a person, there's no one better. But, you know, a lot of the times winning is in spite of the coach, and I think there's some of that going on in Houston, and, you know, they're losing games that they need to win. If they had just split with the Royals, they're leading the division right now, at least.
Yeah, they're close, and yeah, that was they got swept at home by the Royals.
Yeah,
at home. That's stuff. In September. That's bad. I mean, that's really bad.
Yeah, I will. I'll follow you. I had the Rangers making the playoffs out of spring training, so I'm going to stick with that and take my victory lap, you know, follow in the footsteps of my Corey Seager victory lap and take my Texas Rangers victory lap.
I'll allow it.
So I don't think they're going to miss. And yeah, I'm just trying to will Seattle into the playoffs, manifest them. I get tired of the same teams over and over again. Like, the NBA completely lost my attention when it was the Warriors and Cavs every single year, and you know, now that Houston's won and Atlanta's won, I want new teams in there. And this year there are a lot of new teams that haven't won in some time. You know, if you go down, Baltimore, obviously Minnesota, Texas, Tampa Bay, Toronto, none of them have won. Seattle, none of them have won recently, and obviously, you know, have all the NL teams too. But I like to keep things interesting, and I think Seattle has that fire that, you know, some other players might lose if they get a little complacent after a World Series win, or, you know, the World Series hangover, championship hangovers are a real thing. So there might be some of that in Houston, thinking they were going to cruise into the playoffs, and all of a sudden they're fighting for their lives, having a playoff series a week before they're probably prepared to have a playoff series. So I think Seattle gets that final spot. All right, so let's move on to another AL division. The Minnesota Twins, another one. So I wanted to make sure we took time to talk about the Twins because, well, for 2 reasons. One, they're a playoff team, and we just can't discount any playoff team. You know, the playoffs in baseball, and obviously any sport, but in baseball, it's all about who gets hot at the right time. You know, that's why the Dodgers have only ever won one in this kind of like generation, and obviously it was the shortened season. If it was just who won the regular season, the Dodgers would have like 12 World Series titles. So it's all about who gets hot at the right time, and there's nothing that says the Twins can't get hot. They have decent pitching, they have a decent lineup, they have decent defense. It's just you know, people are overlooking them because it's the weakest division in baseball. They're the only team that's going to finish with a winning record, and it's not like an overly convincing winning record either. So what are your thoughts on the Twins' chances? And the second part of it is, will they finally win a playoff game? Because I don't know how many years it's been, or like how many appearances it's been, but it's been like 18 years since they won a playoff game, and it's not for lack of making the playoffs either.
Yeah, I want to say it's 19 playoff games in a row that they have lost.
Maybe that's the number I was thinking
which
of.
Is a lot. If we let's just drop the curse aspect of this and kind of just look objectively at their roster.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like them going into a playoff series.
Not bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
They've got the pitching. They've got the starting pitching. There's no doubt about that. Sonny Gray's an ace.
The problem is they're gonna go up against Tampa Bay.
Yeah. But okay, let me just
it's tough.
It's definitely gonna be tough for them.
It's not who you want to go up against.
It's always tough for the Twins. Here's what I will say: they are getting contributions offensively from players that they have not normally gotten contributions from. So there is something different here. A lot of young guys. Ryan Jeffers has come on for them. Royce Lewis has come on for them. Edward Julien has come on for them. All these young guys have come on and really hit in the second half. They had a 500 record, close to 500 record in the first half, and now they're about like 15 games over 500 in the second half. So they are hot at the right time. They got a pretty solid bullpen, and they can actually transition some of their starters to long relief. Bailey Ober, for example, or Kenta Maeda, who's done that plenty of times in his career. So from a playoff roster standpoint, I actually kind of like this team to at least make some noise. But obviously, we know that the history of the Twins in the playoffs has not been great. So we can't really predict them to win anything until they actually win something. So
yeah.
I like what they got. Let's see if they can win a game, and then maybe after they win a game, we can talk a little bit more about what else they might be able to do.
Their chances.
Probably not great chances in the playoffs, but an interesting team at least, especially going forward. They got a lot of young talent, man. And I didn't even realize how many of these young guys had come up and contributed, especially in the second half for them. But if I'm a Twins fan, this is a good season, and I'm looking forward to next season especially.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I think the Twins do have going for them is obviously winning their division and getting a home playoff series. Mm-hmm. The Twins have just as many home regular season wins this year as the Orioles do. Currently, they have more home wins than the Blue Jays, the Astros, or the Mariners. So they're playing to their strengths, and obviously home field advantage is a real thing. I'm not really breaking any news here, but they're just significantly better at home than they are on the road. And like some teams are about even, home or away, but they are significantly better at home. So that's their advantage. They really need the home crowd going to play to their home field advantage and see if they can't, upset the Rays in round one. Like it's anyone's game. It's a 3-game series. We saw the Royals upset the Astros, and we've seen crazier things happen. So it's a 3-game series that you only need to win 2. So go win a series and get the monkey off your back. But let's shift from the AL Central to the NL Central and talk about another team that I want to make sure we definitely do not overlook, and that is the Milwaukee Brewers, the NL Central champions. If you tried to construct a playoff team, right, you're gonna start with at least 3 high-quality pitchers in their in the starting rotation, and they have that. They have arguably the best 3-headed monster in baseball with Corbin Burnes, Brandon Woodruff, who's pitching out of his mind now. I think that's not getting talked about because he was hurt the majority of the year. He's healthy now, and he is a force. Like, if anything, Corbin Burnes is
Brandon
the
Woodruff's
guy you need
the
to
ace right now.
Right, exactly. Like, Corbin Burnes is a recent Cy Young winner, and he might not even be the best pitcher in that 3-headed monster. Like, I think Brandon Woodruff gets the ball game 1. I don't know, but he's pitching out of his mind right now, and because he didn't pitch early in the year, his arm, in theory, is a little bit more fresh than someone who's had to pitch, almost 200 innings all year long, staying healthy. And that doesn't even mention Freddie Peralta, whose second half of the year, basically post the All-Star break, is insane. Like, his overall numbers, very solid, very respectable, love that. But his second half numbers are insane. So if you just need 3 pitchers to get hot at the right time, a formula the Nationals used very, very well, like, the Brewers could really make some noise. And they're seemingly going to go up against Philly, who we're going to talk about here in a second, if they have enough. Like, I want to make sure we pay attention to them, because if you're just riding dominant pitching, you can do that for a time. Obviously, you're going to need your offense to come through at some point, which is really the big question with them. But if they're going to get contributions from Mark Canha like they are, and some of the other role players that they are, I could see it happening. I think they stand as good of a shot as anyone coming out of the NL.
Yeah, and that goes back to playoff roster versus regular season roster.
Yeah.
You know, you look at their regular season roster, and you're like, okay, whatever. But for postseason, when you don't have to worry about, you know, all the depth that, like, some of these organizations like the Dodgers have, where they just kind of are a factory for guys that can come up and play well. When it comes to playoff rosters, it's a lot different. You got to have those dominant players, those dominant pitchers. But, you know, you're right. The offense is bad, honestly. For a playoff team, for a division winner, it's a bad offense. They are definitely prioritizing their defense and pitching, but they got 2 guys. They got 2 guys that can make noise in the postseason. One is Christian Yelich. He's already been there, done that. He's an MVP, and he's had a resurgent season this year. Number 2 is William Contreras. This dude, first of all,
it was a throwaway from Atlanta, so they could get Sean Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, basically, and this dude's not just turning into a star. He's a star already. He is tied for 12th in all of position players for F4, 5.3. Tied with Juan Soto. Juan Soto is tied with William Contreras in F4. Is Juan Soto a superstar, would you say?
Yeah. There's no debating.
William Contreras is right there, and, you know, a lot of that has to do with his incredible catcher defense, which is much improved. The Brewers are a freaking factory for that too, for catcher defense. I don't even understand I don't get it. But he has improved so much defensively, and he can hit. And I'm looking for him to make a lot of noise for the Brewers in the postseason.
I would like to see it. I am not one of those Nats fans that, like, hates Philadelphia more than anything because of, you know, Bryce Harper and all this stuff. I actually still quite like Bryce Harper, and I would like to see him win the World Series, as, you know, during this time period where the Nats are not contending for a World Series. Once the Nats are contending again, it's obviously, you know,
we hate Philly.
Yeah, we hate Philly. But if Milwaukee comes out guns blazing and just, you know, strong arms Philly, who was obviously the NL representative last year, I'm cool with it. Because I think I talked about I like mixing up you know, these championship teams and whatnot, but I think the Brewers, this might be their last best chance. Obviously, they have the same 3 pitchers next year, but you don't necessarily want to leave it to the very last possible year of your window. You want to go in and get it now, and I think the players are probably feeling that as well. They don't want to leave it because, like, let's say the Brewers start off slow next year. They could trade those guys rather than...
they might trade them.
Yeah, so, like, this might be your last best chance to go do it, and they have the pieces to. It's just, can their offense keep up with the bats of the Braves, the bats of the Dodgers, the bats of the Phillies? Like, that's a big if, but they have the pitching to at least keep them competitive, and that's such a comfort if you're anyone on Milwaukee's offense. So, like, hey, I just need to go play my game because I have a dog out there on the mound that's going to keep us in it. And, you know, it only takes 1 or 2 runs, and that's all they're going to need. So that, and not to mention they have a great bullpen too with
excellent
Yoel Payamps and Devin Williams, obviously. So
and that Uribe guy. What's his first name? That dude's nasty. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, they have the pieces. Yeah. So it's just, can it come together at the right time? They're going to be, you know, a 93-ish win team. And the Nats were, a 93-win team and won the World Series. So, you know, crazier things have happened.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right, let's talk about the Phillies, like I just alluded to. I can't tell where I stand on them because obviously they, you know, had a great run last year, knocked off the Braves, knocked off the Padres, and got to the World Series. I don't think they do that again, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they do that again, because even though they didn't win the World Series, they have that experience now. They won the pennant, so they know what it takes. They know what it's like to pull off upsets. It's not like they're not needing to prove to us to do something they haven't done before. They did it last year. They were 2 games away from winning the World Series. So it's like, I can't tell where I fall on the Phillies. They have obviously Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. They need more from the rest of their staff and their bullpen, but their offense is as good as anyone's in the league. What do you think of the Phillies' chances? We talked about them as like their only real threat, not the only real threat, but one of the biggest threats to the Braves. But can they put it all together?
Yeah, it's well, your reaction of like, I don't really know what this team is kind of the same. Like, it's like, what are you guys? Because I think Philly's ceiling is very, very high, and when they are hot, you don't really. When they're hot, that offense is almost at Atlanta's level. Because if you get Schwarber hitting dingers, you get Trey Turner
1 through 9 can hit a home run, and that's just so incredibly
Castellanos
dangerous.
has had a better year this year, so offensively they're great. That starting rotation is a big concern though. Wheeler, as great as he is, has struggled in his career versus Atlanta at times. Although last year in the postseason, I believe he had a really good outing versus them. And then it's kind of like, is Nola gonna be last year's Nola, which was really, really good, or is he gonna be this year's Nola, I don't know what we're gonna get.
Yeah,
I still think he can go out and give you a 7-inning 1-run start. So that's less concerning to me than the back half of the rotation, which is pretty weak. Taijuan Walker has been all right. Ranger Suarez has been all right. Christopher Sanchez actually is probably the best option there, in my opinion, as a third guy. But I think if their pitching can hold up, and that offense gets hot like they did last year in the postseason, they could still go on a run. But it's a little bit like they have to be hot. Like if they have guys that aren't on, then it's going to be a struggle, especially if they do end up going against that Brewers pitching staff in the first round.
Yeah, I agree. We'll do obviously our postseason picks prior to the start of the postseason, but the way the season's ending now matters, and it's not like the Phillies are ending it poorly. They've won 5 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Kind of like the Brewers. Kind of like them to pull that upset.
I'm sort of leaning with you because the Brewers have also played really well in the second half and going down the stretch. So, I think your point about Brandon Woodruff not having the innings on him is actually a huge deal, because he's going to be able to go 110, 115 pitches in some of these playoff games where maybe you would have pulled him earlier had he pitched 180 to 200 innings.
Oh wait, no, I messed up. That they're not playing each other. I'm looking at the standings wrong.
They should play each other, though. That would be a fun series.
Yeah, I would still like that. Milwaukee's most likely going to play Chicago, assuming Chicago plays. Yeah, damn. I was looking at the standings
I totally was thinking the same way that you were there.
I was thinking 4-team playoffs, so yeah, damn.
Yeah, we're still getting used to expanded playoffs. Only the second year, guys. Give us a break.
Hand up, my bad. So that also means that Minnesota won't be playing Tampa Bay. But everything we said still applies, so my bad. So real quick, we'll just wrap up the NL wild card. I want to talk about the Padres. I don't think they're going to get in there, and it sucks because they made a late season run. They won like 8 in a row. They're 9-1 in their last 10, but it just seems too little, too late. But of Arizona, Chicago, Miami, Cincinnati, all teams that are still in the race, do you think any of them are a legitimate threat?
No.
I say no. Like, if you feel bad about saying no, I think no. I think they're just having... all 4 of those teams can feel proud about the seasons they've had.
Yes.
But they're not doing anything in the playoffs.
The D-backs and the Cubs should feel great about making the playoffs this year. Just making it is a huge accomplishment, especially for the D-backs who have been kind of like, were they going to take that step? They've taken a big step, and they've still got a lot of young guys.
And don't forget, they DFA'd an 8 Madison Bumgarner salary as a
that's right.
We're gonna go for it this year move, and it seems to have paid off.
Mm-hmm. And as for the Cubs, obviously they've had a fantastic season. They
rebuilt the same year as the Nats.
I was literally saying it. I was going right for it. They started their rebuild the same year as the Nats, and they're in the playoffs. Cody Bellinger's had a resurgent season. I anticipate that they will extend Cody Bellinger and keep him around there. So then you have kind of a core of him and Swanson and Nico Horner up the middle, who is fantastic, by the way. So underrated, by the way. God, I love that guy.
I remember your talk on him prior to the season.
He is incredible as a defender and even as a hitter, but especially defense. But yeah, no, they won't make noise in this postseason, but they should feel great about where they are going forward.
Yeah. And then just final thoughts on the Padres. I mean, we give the Mets plenty of crap for their disappointment, but the Padres are one of the bigger disappointments in recent years, in my mind.
Yeah.
With how stacked that roster is and, how good their pitching staff was this year. It's not even like, their pitching really sucked this year. Not like their pitching was excellent. They just quite literally, if you look at, all of the expected numbers love the Padres. Quite literally, the only thing holding them back, they are not clutch at all in any sense of the word.
It really sucks. We really saw their potential right at the end of the season. They go on a 9-game win streak, looked awesome. Yep. And yes, clutch. Oh my goodness, the stats on the clutch stats for the Padres are crazy. They're like top 6 in WRC plus and ERA. Like what? And they're not even gonna. And their run differential's like plus 80, and they're not even 500. So I'm expecting some changes, both in, I think, front office. Preller's probably getting the axe, I would think, because
I would think so. Because Bob Melvin's a multiple-time manager of the year, and it seems like that's the guy you're going to keep. Not that AJ Preller's done a poor job. Like the Snell trade worked out. Obviously, he brought in Juan Soto, who's done more than fine. Tatis and Machado and all that stuff. Bogarts, obviously, like he's done a fine job, but it just didn't mesh for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it seems like they have already decided that he's the fall guy, and he's probably has some blame. I think blame should fall on him. I think it should fall on Melvin. I think it should fall on the players, on all of them, because this is a huge disappointment, and changes are going to have to be made. And that could include Juan Soto being traded again. He has 1 year left. What do they try and recoup some of the farm that they gave up to get him? Seeing maybe the writing on the wall that this team isn't going to compete currently, even though they should. It's tough because the roster itself isn't bad. It's good, but it's just they just didn't have it when it mattered. So
yeah, I think Soto will get traded.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting offseason for San Diego for sure, as it has been pretty much the last 5 years.
Especially with the perceived lack of talent in the free agent market, the trade market could heat up.
Yeah, you're right. The 2024 market isn't amazing. 2025 is going to be better, I believe. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Trade market could be even more interesting than normal this offseason.
Yep. So something to watch as we progress through the playoffs, and obviously after the season is done. We're going to wind down the show the way we always do and take a trip down to the Nats farm. And the minor league season is over now. The AAA year was the last remaining, and they wrapped up over the weekend. The Nationals released their organization awards, and to no surprise, the hitter of the year is James Wood. Again, there plenty of what we're talking about today we're going to talk about in the offseason as well, but this is a guy who might be MLB ready when it comes, spring of 2024. If you look at his 2023 stats across high A and double A Harrisburg, 262, 353 for an 873 OPS, 26 home runs, 91 RBIs. People are going to talk about K rate. Yeah, K rate matters. Do I care if you're still putting up an 873 OPS? Sure don't, pal. Sure don't.
We can bring up one Stone Garrett if we would like to talk about K rate.
Yes, K rate matters. I'm not trying to discredit K rate. But again, if you're putting up numbers, I'm going to trade strikeouts for power numbers, especially with this team and the lack of power that they have. I will take that. And I don't think he starts with the team out of camp, even though there are those incentives for teams to not manipulate service time and whatnot and keep top prospects down, which is something to monitor. I think the Nats will definitely consider that, but I do still think he starts in AAA, at least spends a cup of coffee there before he gets called up, but we'll see how active the Nationals offseason is. If they're not very active, I think obviously that really increases the likelihood that we see James Wood next year. Pitcher of the year is someone you might not have expected, but Andrew Alvarez, who spent the majority of the season with High A Wilmington, 2.99 ERA across 129 innings, 26 games, 22 starts, 1.17 WHIP, and 116 strikeouts. Very solid. And again, we mentioned it before. Wilmington's a friendly park to pitchers, but Andrew Alvarez could be another riser through the system as the player development seemingly has gotten better. He's not ranked currently in the Nationals top 20 or top 30 prospects, but he could be on his way up as well, and an intriguing name to watch as he progresses through AA and AAA.
Well, we certainly need it because there have been some pitching injuries to Jake Bennett, to Cole Henry. Obviously, Cavalli missed the whole year. Any pitching depth the Nats can get from outside the top 30 is certainly welcome. Alvarez did have a really good season. Really I didn't really start hearing about him till towards
later.
the end. Yeah, but really solid stuff from him. So that's definitely cool that a guy that we weren't really thinking about actually took home an award. As for James Wood, I think that he's the most MLB ready of any of the big prospects in the Nats system right now. And the reason I say that is because he was more consistent throughout the season. He didn't have those really big drop-offs or even the crazy pop-offs. He was pretty steady. He would have a little slump here and there, get back, and then he'd have a little bump, and then it'd come back. So that I like that consistency more so than anything with Wood. But yeah, it's again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Top end guys, we're good. Depth, really need it. Really need it. I saw that in terms of like WOBA and ex-WOBA throughout the organization, they're like 28th in the minors, and that just goes because there's not enough depth hitters hitting well enough to make up that ground. So you can't just rely on only your top guys, and the Nats will have to continue to expand the depth of the farm system. But there is some good stuff and some stuff to be excited about for next year.
Yep. And to round out the awards, Trey Lipscomb takes home the Defensive Player of the Year award. He's my name to watch right now as we sit in the tail end of September. Luis Garcia's job is on the hottest of seats, and I'm not even sure if it's like necessarily his job. Obviously, he's getting the majority of the starts right now.
He's had a good month, actually.
Watch out. He has. I'm just saying I don't think we can like Sharpie him in as the 2024 starting second baseman anymore. Mm-hmm. Something to watch for the offseason as we wrap up this episode. Again, check out this playoff baseball that's going on right now with some of these divisional battles that will decide the playoff matchups and races as we wind down the year. The MVP, Cy Young award races as well, something to watch. The NL Cy Young is still not defined, although I do think Blake Snell is starting to pull away a little bit. It's something to watch as we wind down. One bad start, one good start could shift the momentum one way or another. But that's all I got. Trey, you got anything else before we send our listeners home?
Just, get ready for this great playoff baseball we got, because we got wild card weekend, which is super. That was honestly the best part of the playoffs for me last year, was that those 2 days where it was just 4 games in a row. It was just boom, 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 boom. Let's watch some playoff ball. So that's coming up. Super excited. We got award season coming up as well, and Hall of Fame voting will be coming shortly after that. So I always have some takes about that stuff. So we'll certainly talk about it. But I'm super excited for some great ball.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait. This is the best time of the year with basically all sports going at once, but obviously playoff getting the majority of the attention. Playoff baseball getting the majority of the attention with just these must-watch matchups that go on. So looking forward to it, pal. But be sure to follow us on Twitter. All of our links, handles are below. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening on the podcast form, please be sure to check out our YouTube page. And if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. And be sure to like, subscribe, review on the podcast platforms as well. Appreciate you. We will be back next week talking, recapping the Nat season, but also talking our previews for playoff baseball as well. So looking forward to it. Peace.